Tonight, shock and horror at the defacing of the gravesite of a beloved artist. And the search continues for a missing man in Cleve.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Hello everyone. Broken Hill Police are calling on the public to assist their investigation following the vandalism of the gravesite of artist Pro Hart. Officers are urging witnesses to come forward to help narrow down the time frame of the attack, which has left the artist's family upset and distressed.
The resting place of a world-renowned artist and Broken Hill icon defaced by heartless vandals.
If they do catch them, I hope they throw the book at them.
Police today continuing their investigations into the brazen attack on Pro Hart's cemetery monument, calling on locals to help.
Contact Broken Hill Police or Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000.
The Broken Hill community and the artist's family left in shock over the weekend when the damage was discovered.
Why would people come out here and do something stupid like that?
Police saying an unknown substance was poured onto the artist's memorial sometime this month between Thursday the 13th and Saturday the 22nd.
Our crime scene officers were out there yesterday taking samples, photographs in relation to it.
On the $60,000 granite gravestone, a gold etching of Pro's iconic dragonfly symbol. The vandals' liquid believed to be acid eroding the gold finish, staining the once gleaming monument. Despite the family's best efforts, it can't be cleaned off. They visited the site yesterday trying to comprehend the senseless act.
All it's done is just embarrass the city. It's upset a lot of the locals who are highly supportive of Pro. I mean, Pro loved this town. There's nothing he wouldn't do to help things happen here, and I can't believe anyone locally would do such a thing.
A distressed Rayleigh Hart trying to hold back tears after hearing about the desecration of her late husband's place of rest.
I couldn't understand why somebody could do such a terrible thing.
Police say the attack appears to be targeted. No surrounding graves were damaged.
Public assistance will be of really great value to this investigation because someone might be able to narrow that time frame down.
You've had your heart taken out once, and now it just feels like it's happened all over again.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A 39-year-old man alleged as being responsible for the death of 2 people after hitting them with his car and driving off has had his home detention bail approved by Adelaide's Supreme Court. Matthew Thomas is expected to leave custody in Port Augusta on Wednesday. The funerals of Stephen Press and Naomi Braden will be held tomorrow. Police and volunteers are still searching for a Cleve man, Daryl Norris, who's been missing for more than 3 weeks. A large search party was set up in Cleve over the weekend in an attempt to find any clues that may lead to his whereabouts.
SES volunteers along with police have all come out in full force today here in Cleve, searching a private property and the National Park, close to where the missing 59-year-old Daryl Norris used to walk.
Mr Daryl Norris was last seen at his Cleve address on Tuesday the 4th of February. As the investigation has progressed, we've identified some heavily vegetated areas that it would be worthwhile for us to search.
2 large utility terrain vehicles searching the larger parts of the agricultural property, with a group of foot searchers looking more specifically walking through trees and bushes for most of the day. These SES volunteers gathering from around the region, dedicating their time to find Mr Norris.
We've got volunteers from Port Lincoln, Port Augusta, Whyalla, Cummins, Cleve.
A drone also searching from above, with multiple police stationed on the property, watching the live feed closely. The area commonly known to Mr Norris, as he used to walk the Telstra access track nearby. Authorities mapping out the search area for volunteers, covering every inch possible to where he may be located, including the track and its surrounding areas.
They're a tremendous resource to have. We can't thank our volunteers enough for the time that they put in to try and help the family find their missing member.
Unfortunately, nothing was located to advance the investigation, but we can rule out that he wasn't in there.
Mr Norris is described as a family man, 183 centimetres tall with a slim build, blue eyes and brown-grey hair. Police say he walks with a limp and was last seen wearing brown cargo shorts and a t-shirt. The family extremely worried as Mr Norris also suffers from a medical condition.
Mr Norris is a very much cared for member of his family, and they're very concerned for his welfare.
Police urge anyone with any information to contact them or Crime Stoppers. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Discussions around the Whyalla port being used to help transport nuclear waste to Kimber's storage facility is causing uproar in the town. Some locals are taking matters into their own hands, creating a 3-question online survey to generate a voting poll on the issue. Council says the Whyalla port is owned and managed by GFG Alliance, and they haven't been advised from the government as to how or when the process would commence. Still to come tonight, a 4-day regatta kicks off in Port Lincoln and drivers charged for high-range speeding and burnouts. Hello again. Broken Hill Police say they're searching for a man who allegedly broke into a home and stole a motorbike early Sunday morning. Officers are looking for any CCTV that may identify the suspect.
Just after 3 o'clock yesterday morning, police say a man gained access to a house in Williams Lane.
The resident was asleep at the time and was woken. As the offender broke in, he demanded some money. The victim gave him what small change he had.
Then the man, described as wearing a white hoodie and shorts in his mid-20s, allegedly stole a Thumpster motorcycle from the property.
The victim wasn't hurt in this incident, but we are investigating, so anyone that was around or saw anything or knows anything may know where this Thumpster motorcycle is. We'd really like to hear from them.
While those investigations continue, police say they have recently charged a 37-year-old Broken Hill man for breaching a domestic violence order.
He's been charged with breaching his AVO, as well as having a knife in a public place, trespassing, and also breach of bail.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A 51-year-old man from Wallaroo is due to appear in court after being detected high-range speeding at 2 Wells in November last year. Police allege the motorist was driving at 170 kilometres per hour in a 110 zone on Port Wakefield Road. The driver was also hanging his arm out the window, making a rude gesture towards the speed cameras. An 18-year-old Port Lincoln driver has had his car impounded after he was filmed doing burnouts. Police allege the teenager did the burnout along Proper Bay Road just after 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. Footage captured of the driver was later seen by police, who were able to identify the vehicle. He's been reported for misuse of motor vehicle and will appear in court at a later date. Port Perry's proposed Riverbank precinct is a step closer to reality, with community consultations now open. Council optimistic the plan will be a game changer for the town, urging residents with any ideas to come forward.
Once industrial, soon to be transformed into a waterfront community hub.
A 3-year staged process. At the moment we're at consultation. The waterfront is really important.
This community member wasting no time to put in his ideas.
2 suggestions for the beach project. The first one is like a sort of an own bodyweight gym area, where people can sort of use free weights, sort of can be used for adults and as well as children. Another thing, we're asking for a half-court basketball court down there.
Residents can pitch their ideas through the council website, sparking conversations on what should be implemented.
Just talking to the people. A lot of people would think it's a good idea, plus it would improve our beach.
But the whole reason for this consultation is to make sure we get everybody's opportunity to have a say. There's already been a whole lot of comments on Facebook, which has been really, really encouraging.
All ideas will be considered.
Opportunity. If you think that we should have a restaurant that's 5 stories high with a great big snapper on top of it, by all means tell us, because it's exactly that we need to know.
Council is hoping the project will be a draw card for the region.
Where there's been a water body, where there's been water, typically those places are more open to tourism than possibly what we've got here in Perry. So yes, I think there's an opportunity.
Suggestions close end of March. Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Records have tumbled in this year's Adelaide to Port Lincoln yacht race, with new competitor Chinese Whisper taking the win. Strong and consistent wins saw the teams fly into Port Lincoln, smashing a 7-year race record.
Under the cover of darkness, David Griffith's Chinese Whisper steamed across the finish line, securing first place and a new race record for the annual Adelaide to Port Lincoln yacht race.
It was perfect conditions and great crew and great tactician, and we've made some changes to the boat and it's going like a rocket.
The 65-foot maxi sailed into Boston Bay in a record time of 10 hours and 34 minutes, shaving off an hour and a half of the previous record set in 2014 by multi-hull vessel Matisha.
Conditions were pretty ideal. I think we had sort of, 15 to 22 knots and mostly reaching the whole way, so it's a bit of a sleigh ride the whole way.
Rival team Naval Group hot on their heels for most of the race, coming in just 2 minutes behind. Consistently strong winds throughout the course saw teams fly across the bottom of the Yorke Peninsula and up towards Port Lincoln.
So across Spencer Gulf it was windy, it was 20 up to 30 knots at times and a bit lumpy, but fast.
Today, the Teakle Classic Regatta kicks off with 2 races off Billy Lights Point, this year introducing 2 separate divisions for the TP52s and 2 maxis.
They go first and they sail longer courses, and then once they've tacked up into the wind, they'll put the spinnakers up and they look really dramatic.
Despite light winds, organisers say this week's regatta will be a show not to miss, with some of the best sailors and yachts in Australia competing, including last year's Sydney to Hobart winner, Ichiban.
The regatta and the race are gradually increasing their reputation, so 11 boats from interstate, more Sydney boats and Melbourne boats this year, but seriously fast boats.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Comedy comes to Port Augusta and all the colour and action from the Whyalla Triathlon. Welcome back. Port Augusta's Desert Fringe has finished off with a bang for another year, with a comedy show wrapping it up. The show, called Deadly Funny, included some homegrown talent.
A night of laughter and cheer in the Institute Theatre. In its 14th year, the Deadly Funny Show made its way to Port Augusta, a nationwide comedy competition hunting for the most hilarious Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander.
Family's funny. Most Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander families are all storytellers, so dating way back, everybody's got a story, everybody in our community knows how to tell one funny.
Last year's winner saying he never imagined what would have come from his friends peer pressuring him into entering the competition.
Here I am today at Port Augusta, we'll get a chance like that to perform in front of these good people out in the country. It's good, these opportunities arise just for having a go.
A new competitor this year, Elijah, says the beginning of the act is the most nerve-wracking part.
I think getting that first laugh, then you're over the hurdle. So as soon as you get that one, you realise you're on beat and you can keep on going.
Saying Port Augusta has a special place in his childhood and was excited to perform here.
Spent a lot of time here as a kid growing up, through the sand dunes, playing in the water and the Gulf. It's a marvellous place.
Leaving some sound advice for aspiring comedians.
Let your emotions get crushed by the deafening silence and then just work out how to just be in love with the game.
Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Hundreds of locals flocked to the Port Lincoln Racecourse yesterday for the annual Prelude Cup, an event providing the opportunity to thank volunteers for their tireless work this bushfire season. Local emergency services were invited as special guests at the sponsors' lunch.
A day of racing, fashion and showing thanks to our local emergency services. This year's Port Lincoln Prelude Cup invited along a dozen firefighters to let their hair down and have some fun.
We see racing as a platform that can provide a number of things, and in this case, recognition for our emergency services volunteers, the SES people and the CFS people.
Fireys from the local brigade attended the race lunch after what's continued to be a difficult fire season for volunteers, many being deployed to the front lines of raging infernos interstate and here at home.
Our first fire started back with the Duck Ponds fire when that started off, and Region 6, which is the immediate area around Port Lincoln, we've been responding to New South Wales, Kangaroo Island, all over the states.
Some of those volunteers weren't home for Christmas or for New Year, and these are the sort of sacrifices that they make and their families make.
The day also saw dozens of children dress up and put their best foot forward in the kids' fashion at the races. 5-year-old Stacey Holness and 6-year-old Noah Henson being sashed the winners.
I'm happy to have won today.
It was all eyes on race 6, with the winner automatically qualifying for next week's Port Lincoln Cup. Dexter U Devil, ridden by jockey Shane Cahill, finishing first.
We look forward to seeing one and all at the Port Lincoln Cup on March the 6th.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
There will be some sore muscles today after athletes from across the region competed in this year's 2020 triathlon in Whyalla. With 4 different divisions to take part in, this year's competition was tougher than ever before and brought in crowds by the hundreds.
The annual competition that always draws in a crowd, this year's Whyalla Triathlon hailed a success.
Trying to promote active lifestyles for all our kids and even the adults to get out and have another excuse to train and live healthy, active lives.
The organisers have 4 different distances to cater for all abilities.
The physically challenging course saw competitors take part in a 750-metre swimming challenge, followed by a 20-kilometre bike ride and finishing with a 5-kilometre run through the Adirine Gardens. This year's winner, Port Lincoln's Patrick Goodwin.
It's just a great course. I'm so glad I made the trip out here. It's just one of those great race locations. You can't get much better, really. And just awesome environment, awesome people. Can't ask for much more.
A tough slog that's left Patrick smiling from ear to ear.
It was probably the run that really nailed it home for me.
This year's first female to make it across the finish line, Whyalla local Courtney Moyle.
I think the swim's always the hardest for me. That's my weakest leg, so I was happy to get through that okay and just push on as hard as I could.
Family and friends cheering her on, support when Courtney needed it most.
I'm very proud of my granddaughter. She is very athletic and she likes pushing herself, so well done.
And taking out the win for the team's Enticer division was Ryan Westlake from Walrus and the Kids.
Dad did pretty well, better than what I thought he was going to do for the swim, and then Cooper did really well for the ride, and I had to catch up a bit on the run, but we got the win, so it's all right.
Younger athletes soaking up the atmosphere, helping instill a dose of healthy competition.
I did it last year and it was lots of fun. I'm going to be cheering like this. Woohoo!
I come down to support a couple of people I go to the gym, and a couple of people down here in it today. So let's hope they have a good session and they come in with bragging rights in the morning.
Many of the junior triathlon contestants have set their sights high, aspiring to be lifeguards when they grow up.
We come down here every week and try to help out the community as best as we can.
Kids are challenged, adults are challenged, but they all finish smiling, sweaty, a bit puffed, and it's good to see them coming back year after year.
Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us. After the break, there's some more sport. Shari Hams will have this week's cricket wrap and Britt will join us with the weather. Welcome back. Turning to cricket now, and Wanderers have continued their charge towards the finals with a big win over Proprietary over the weekend. Bowling first, the ladder leaders made light work of their opponents on their way to a 5-wicket win. Shari Hams has the weekend wrap.
Props won the toss and elected to bat, their only win of the day as Wanderers outclassed them here at Memorial Oval on Saturday morning. Props lost early wickets to eventually be bowled out for 120, losing their last 5 wickets for just 24 runs. Wanderers made short work of the chase, securing the win in just the 32nd over. Matt Thornton had a day out, making 47 and taking 2 wickets. Wanderers looking steady ahead of the finals, sitting comfortably on top of the ladder. In the other match, Port Germain had a big win over Southport as they looked to sew up on a top 2 finish. Young Flynn Bullen a shining light for Southport with 31 runs on what was a dirty day for the team. Moving across the region and in Port Augusta, a blistering 142 from Alex Hosking saw Corn book a spot in the grand final with an 8-wicket win over Central Stirling. Batting first, Central posted a competitive 217, however Corn were able to chase it down with 7 overs to spare. They'll face South Augusta in the decider next week.
Over to the northern areas, Bellany defeated Melrose in the elimination final. They'll face Spalding in the prelim after Borough skittled them for just 68 on their way to a 6-wicket win. Across to Whyalla, Rapina smashed South Whyalla, Greg Feebick and Dale Chenoweth leading the way. And Central's unbeaten run is over after going down to North. Down to Port Lincoln, Lincoln South edged out Todd River. Tasman was no match for Southern Air, and Charlton also came out on top against Waybacks. Finishing in Broken Hill, it was the last minor round before finals. Central won the minor premiership with a strong win over West, while a century from Dan Turbrack saw North power past South. And that's it for cricket for this week. I'll be back tomorrow night with all the other sports from across the region.
Now for a look at your week's weather, here's Bri Taylor.
Thanks Louise and good evening. 35 was the high at Port Pirie today, Port Augusta 33, Broken Hill 32, Port Lincoln 27, Whyalla 25. Today's satellite images show a little cloud over the region with a low pressure trough. Tomorrow on the Gulf Waters, southwesterly winds 10 to 15 knots, sunrise 6:57 and sunset at 8 p.m. Maximum temperatures ranging from the mid-20s to the mid-30s tomorrow, with mostly sunny conditions expected. 35 the top at Port Augusta, Woodner, Corn and Broken Hill, Port Pirie and Clare both 31, Whyalla, Cleve and Kadina 29, Port Lincoln and Coffin Bay 26. To the 4-day forecast now, Port Lincoln and Cleve both with fine and partly cloudy days ahead, tops of 22 Wednesday and Thursday, 24 on Friday. Woodner sunny towards the end of the working week. Partly cloudy at Whyalla and Kadina through the rest of the week, maximums in the mid-20s. Port Augusta looking sunny Thursday and Friday. Fine on Wednesday at Port Pirie, sunny Thursday and Friday. Clare fine on Wednesday and sunny on Thursday, sitting in the mid-20s. Broken Hill looking sunny with a top of 30 on Wednesday. And Louise, that's all for the weather. Back to you.
All right, lovely. Thank you for that, Brett. And that's your local news this Monday evening. Thank you for joining us today. We'll have updates later. Until then, have a lovely and safe evening. Good night.